This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem. Today's Sugya, we're going to examine Nun Zayin Amud Beis in Yevamos. The Gemara has a shaila about Yesh Chupah L'Psulais or Ein Chupah L'Psulais. Now what does that mean, Yesh Chupah L'Psulais? We are always tend to think that Chupah follows Kedushin. That B'shloisha Drachim Ha'isha Niknes, woman could be kind of a Kesef Shar Babiyah, but then there's Nesuin. There's Nishau, and Chupah performs Nesuin. Now this shaila over here, Yesh Chupah L'Psulais or Ein Chupah L'Psulais, was Kedushin done here or was Kedushin not done here? So before we see some of the Mefarshim, let's read Rashi and let's read part of Tosfos. Rashi says, Kohen Gadol shehichnes almana bas kohen, and Kohen Gadol was machnes and almana the door of a kohen l'chupah, v'loy bala, and he did not live with her. Now, did he do kedushin first? Umeikara nami loy kitcha. He also did not do kedushin in the beginning. Afilu hachi pasla mitruma debei nasa. Nevertheless, he pasels her, he disqualifies her from the truma of her father's house. The chupah kechnisas beila damya, because chupah is like taking her in with bia. So Rashi says he did chupah, he did not have relations with her, he did not do kedushin. So why would it pasel? Chupah is not a kinyan, chupah is a goymer. The answer is, Rashi says, Chupah kiknisas bi'ila damya. And the same way, if he would have had bia with her, it would have for sure paseled her. Chupah, perhaps, which is the beginning of bia, right? It dawned on me, we said this over on Shabbos, just one little nekuda. Why is chupah kiknisas bia? The Gemara in Ksubah says beferish, Hakol yoidim lama kala nechnesas l'chupah. The Gemara says, but if anybody says, then that's nivel peh, and there's punishment, but the chuppah is the hachnasa, the tchilas hachnasas bia. I would have learned Rashi that no kedushin at all is done. Chuppah perhaps is not a kinyan whatsoever. Nevertheless, it is some kind of haschala, and that's how the Ritva learns, and that's how we said it over when we learned it on Tuesday. And not everybody learns Rashi that way. Tosfos does not learn Rashi that way. In fact, there are two perushim in Tosfos. Let's see the Tosfos Nun Zayin Amud Beis on the top. Nira Lari. I'm not seeing everybody who's here. Michael, we're going to maybe discuss what you brought up regarding Chupas Nida, which is I didn't even realize very connected to this Sugya. Okay, so the Gemara Tosfos says like this: Nira Lari Lefarish. Lefi shitas hakontras. The Ri, it seems to the Ri to explain based on the shita of Rashi, the pligi b'chuppah b'loy kesef. We're talking about chuppah without kesef. Chuppah is not a kinyan. No, the Rav u'Shmuel savri krav huna this liberation kedushin the chuppah koineh. Rav and Shmuel both hold like Rav Huna in the beginning of kedushin on daf hey that chuppah is koineh. If I'm not mistaken, Rav Huna makes a kal v'chomer. Ma kesef, which is koineh, but is not goimer. Chupah, which is goimer, eino din, that it should be koineh. That's the kavachomer of Rav Huna. Rav Huna's famous kavachomer. So, since chupah is a kinyan, v'ka'amar Rav says, the chihechi dekanu kiddushay chupah b'kashrus, hachanami kanu b'psulais. Just like Chupah would be koina in a kosher woman, it would also be koina in a pasal woman, and therefore it would render her disqualified to eat truma. Va'adifa mikidushe kesef. Now Rav would say this is better than kesef, because Rebbe Lezer and Reb Shimon, they say that if you do kiddushe kesef to a psul, it doesn't passel, because a woman who's primed for bia psula does not passel. But Rav and Shmuel would say, even Rebbe Lezer and Reb Shimon, that say kiddushe kesef doesn't passel. Chupah, which is a type of kinyan, which is karov lebia, moidu, they would acknowledge and they would admit kinamrinan b'dichuya demilsa the Rami Bar Chama. The same way the Gemara said, the Gemara will say on Daf Nun Ches to the opinion of Rami Bar Chama that Chupah might be different than other kinyanim. That is what Rav argues, namely that just because Kedushay Kesef would not necessarily disqualify her from eating Truma, Chupah definitely would. Why don't we say as follows? Dayoy levamin hadin liyos kenidain. That why don't we say dayoy? If kedushay kesef won't passel her from eating truma, then meaning like this. I think what Tosfos is saying is, from where do we learn out a kinyan chuppah? It's a kavachomer from kinyan kesef. Well then, dayoy levamin hadin liyos kenidain. If the whole makar is kesef, and if you do kedushay kesef to a woman who's a psula, it would not render her pasol l'truma. So then if you do chuppah to a psula, it should not pasel her from truma. No, we would not say dayo over here. It says Tosfos, Dahad mishtameres labi psula, da'iraisa lo yachla midrabanan. That which a woman who is waiting for bia psula da'iraisa doesn't eat, it's only midrabanan. And since it's only midrabanan, we don't have to apply dayo. You could say the rabbis were more machmir by chuppah than they were by kedushay kesef. Meaning dayo applies on a dairaisa level, but we're not dealing with a dairaisa here. We're dealing with a drabanan of disqualifying her from truma midrabanan. In that case, we should say dayo. We would not apply dayo leva min hadin lios kenidon. And what does Shmuel hold? Shmuel amar ein chuppah lapsulais. Why? The chuppah loy mahani ela bekashros. Chuppah only helps by a woman who's kosher. The chuppah kiruv biyahu. Chuppah is approaching bia, v'loy mahania ela beruyos bia, and it's only effective if the woman is worthy to do bia. Avo b'psulais, but a woman who is pasal, shein ruyos bia, then the chuppah is not a karev lebia. The whole mechanism of chuppah is it is approaching bia, but that's only possible to say if it's permitted to do bitter. If it's not permitted to do bitter, you're not going to say the chuppah is approaching the bia. Says Tosfos, v'chuppah de la'achar kedushin nami loy mahanya b'psulais l'Shmuel. Then Tosfos has an added chiddush. Shmuel would say chuppah even after kedushin doesn't help for psulais. Fine. That is the shita of Tosfos. Tosfos learns differently than the way we learned Rashi. We learned Rashi that we're talking about not in the world of Rav Huna. And chuppah doesn't do anything. It's not koine, it's not goimer without kedushin. So why would it exempt her? Because it's karoiv lebia. But it's not koine, it doesn't matter. It's still the beginning of bia. Tosfos holds, it's the beginning of bia. You know why? Because it's a kinyan, and we hold like Rav Huna that chuppah is koine. And in fact, it's even more than kedushay kesef. Kedushay kesef maybe would not passel her, according to Reb Lezer and Reb Shimon, but chuppah would. That's how Tosfos learns Rashi. The end of Tosfos, about 5 lines from the end of Tosfos, V'nira l'ri keperish Rabbeinu Tam de b'chuppah sha'achar kedushin ayri Rav Shmuel. That we're talking about, in other words, what we read in the beginning of Tosfos was the Ri's Perush for Rashi. But the Ri personally would learn the Gemara, like Rabbeinu Tam, that our Sugya is talking about Chuppah after Kedushin. But we're simple Jews today. We just want to understand Rashi. Tosfos learns Rashi that we're in the world of Rav Huna, that Chuppah is a Kedushin. And now let's see the Ritva. The Ritva, here we have it. We'll start over here. It ma Rav Amar yesh chuppah l'psulos, Shmuel Amar ein chuppah l'psulos. Perish Rashi, kohen gadol shekanas almano l'chuppah v'loy ba'aleha, u'meikara nami loy kitcha. The Rav Amar afilu hachi pasla mitruma debei nasa. The chuppah kiknisas be'ilo damya. U'Shmuel Amar she'ena nifsalas b'truma mipnei chuppah zu. V'hikshu alav, they asked on Rashi, Kimidvarav nira, from the words of Rashi, it would seem the l'kulei alma chuppah eina kaina. According to everyone, chuppah is not kaina. The less l'hu kal v'chomer the Rav Huna the parak kama the kedushin. He doesn't hold to the kal v'chomer of Rav Huna in the first parak of kedushin. Uve Gemara yesh siyul as the Gemara that we're going to see tomorrow night is mashma this way, because the Gemara says on the statement of Rami Bar Chama that we'll see tomorrow that maybe Rameir only said over there that a woman who's primed for bia psula apostles ela b'kedushin de kanilei ava b'chuppah d'loi kanilei loi alma lahedya sfir lan b'shmaid nechuppah l'kolayim loi kanya. And Rashi himself says that means chuppah is not kaina, only kesef shtar and bia. So Rashi clearly learns the Gemara that says that maybe Rav Meir only asers a woman who's primed for bia psula if a kinyan was done, but chuppah is not kaina. So and Rashi says explicitly chuppah is not kaina, only kesef shtar and bia. V'naka le maran behead. Rashi says explicitly kamay denakan hacha maran shaloi kidei shaisa. Talking about he didn't marry her. Kalaymar she'ein loy be'isha zu shum kinyan. That you didn't do any kinyan to this woman. Ela shechnisa l'chuppah v'zimna atzma l'bia psula v'chashav le Rav k'knisas be'ila. Rav considers going to the chuppah like entering for bia l'mifsala l'truma b'mnei knisa zu. V'kasha l'hu al perushai. It's shver on Rashi. Chadad imkein d'shmaitin b'chuppah greitza. Then our Gemara is talking about only chuppah, because the Perish Maran, Hechi Masnizan Lekaman Raya Lidera Me'ahid Soita, She Chuppah Acher Kedushin, L'chuppah Zu, She Gretza. How could the Gemara later try to bring a proof from Soita, which is talking about chuppah after Kedushin, to chuppah alone? Dafilu Yeshba Kinyan, even if chuppah is a Kinyan, that's talking about after Kedushin, but not chuppah alone. Furthermore, v'oid kiven she'en chuppah koina. If chuppah is not koina, ve'ena ela ki'ilu. What does that word say? Herzika ime be'andarta. Huh? What does that mean? He says perish nechba imai. Basically like this. What's chuppah? She hid it. They went into hiding together. Lama he nefsels menezel truma dafil l'ksheros ein chuppah v'choshken l'psulas. That kind of chuppah doesn't do anything even to a kosher woman. Why would it do something to a pasul woman? Bottom line is the Ritva's kasha on Rashi is that since Rashi is mashma, the way we learned Rashi, that we're talking about chuppah without kedushin, but chuppah without kedushin doesn't do anything even to a kosher woman. It's a meaningless act. In other words, if they played Lego together and she was pasul, then it would not disqualify her. In other words, if a Kohen Gadol played chess with an almana, it would not disqualify her from eating truma. What do you mean? Why do you think they're playing chess? If he took her out to the Brooklyn Marriott, she wouldn't become pasul to eat truma. Oh, what do you mean? Why are they? So why would chuppah? Chuppah doesn't do anything. That's basically the Ritva's kasha. Chuppah is a meaningless act. Says the Ritva, no. Ubavadei dehaloi kasha kolei. There's not such a big question. The dilma af agav the chuppah loikanya kivan de aldas kedushin onesuin nichnas hasham. Since they entered there with the mindset of kedushin or nesuin, v'zimna, and they prepared the kirva atzma labia, and they came close to bia psula. She's pasul alabia psula kansura banan shalei toicha b'tshuma. Umi uloi mechuvar. Nevertheless, it's not so clear. It's not white. V'oid mishum kusha kamaisa. And also, the first question of what's the Gemara's raya tomorrow from Soita. But it sounds like the main question of the Ritva is that, look, it's an empty act. Bottom line, he does learn Rashi that since the purpose of the act is to do bia, it would disqualify her from truma. Okay. So that's the Ritva. So we learned, when we learned the Sugya, we learned like the Ritva, not like Tosfos, but be aware, Tosfos argues on the Ritva. Okay, so now I want to come to Michael's question. The Rambam Paskins in Hilchos Ishus, Parak Yud Halacha Beis, that we know that a man is not allowed to live with an arusa. We say in Berachas Eresin, V'asar lanu esa arusais. Somebody lives with an arusa, v'beis chamia, your malkin oisai malkas mardos. So the Rambam says, Kivin shenichus al arusa l'chuppah, once the arusa enters the chuppah rezum l'teras, lava yaleh b'chales. He can live with her any time. She'yirtza b'ari, ishtei gemur l'chal davar. She is his full-fledged wife. U'mishetichnas l'chuppah, once she enters the chuppah, nikreis nesua, afal pi shaloi nivala, v'hu shatia ruya l'biyah. That's, once a woman enters the chuppah, she is a full-fledged wife, even though they didn't have relations, provided that she was ra'it abiyah. And then the Rambam offers his very unique shita. Aval m'hoisa nida, a woman who is a nida, afal pisha nichnasa l'chuppah, even though she entered to the chuppah, v'nesyach cherima, and they went into seclusion, loy gamru hanasuin, the nasuin has not been finalized, v'arehi ka'arusa dayin, she's still like an arusa. So that's the shita of the Rambam. Chuppas nida is not koina, is not goimer. Why? Because you need chuppah. Because you need chuppah haruya labiyah. Yeah, that's Shitas Rambam. You need chuppah haruya labiyah. So you have the question of, I believe the Mishnah Lamelech, and the Ran. The Mishnah Lamelech basically quotes the Ran. So let's see the Ran. The Ran quotes the Rif. Where is the Ran? And the Ran says, Pirsa nida, eino koina. Kivan shekasav keno Rif. If the Rif says ein koina, stam mashma, she'eino koina l'shum davar. Loi liyarsha, v'loi l'tamela. Not to yarshin her, and not to be metama to her. V'chein kasav harambam, b'parak asiri mehilchos ishas. Aval im hoisa nida, Afal pishenichnas al chuppah v'nesyach rima loy gamru anasun v'ari karusa adayin adkan. So that's the shita of the Rambam. The Hadavar Tema, the Ran says that the Rambam shita that chuppas nida is not koina is really a stira to our Gemara Yevamos, because our Gemara Yevamos says yesh chuppah lepsulais. What that means is we paskin like Rav, right? We have a machlokes here. Rav and Shmuel, yesh chuppah lepsulois or ein chuppah lepsulois. By the way, how do we paskin? There's a klal that we go like Rav be'isser. We go like Rav, right? The Rosh says in Baba Kama that by dinei mamanos we go like Shmuel, because Shmuel was a doctor and he was very practical. Rav specialized in isser. You know why Rav specialized in isser? Who's Rav? Who is Rav? Abba, right? We had on Nun Zayin Obeis. Rav is Abba. Moiduli Abba. If you look throughout the Zohar, most of the Zohar says Amar Rabbi Abba. That's because the Zohar was written by Rav. Rav was Rabbi Abba. Rav Tanahu Upaleg. Yeah? Rav was the Talmud Muvak of the Rashbi. The Rashbi dictated the Zohar to Rav. So Rav was a very spiritual individual. So we pass him like him be'isser. Isser is, Dinei Mamanois is Lama Li Kras Varahu. Dinei Mamanois is like human reasoning. Dinei Yisr V'heter is Lamala Menateva. Anyway, so that means we paskin yesh chuppah lepsulais. So it's a stira. The Rambam holds chuppas nida is not a kinyan. Right? This was Michael's question on Tuesday night. The Rambam holds chuppas nida is not a kinyan. And in our Gemara we paskin yesh chuppah lepsulais. V'adavar tema the kima the kama b'Yevamos yesh chuppah lepsulas kugan amalek chuppas nida lama loy tikna. Chuppas nida should also be a kinyan. So, is this a question or is this not a question? Why did I brush off Michael? Because I learned Rashi like the Ritva. Namely, nobody over here said that the chuppah to the Amanat Kohen Gadol is a good chuppah. Now it's not a good chuppah. Chuppah is not a kinyan. We're talking about where no kedushin was done. We're talking about where you just did chuppah. So the chuppah is not effective over here. Nobody said, Rav is not saying it's an effective chuppah. Rav says even though it's not an effective chuppah, it exempts her, it passes her from truma, because chuppah is the haschala of bia. But the Rambam would say, chuppah's nida is not a chuppah, nor is any other chuppah that is einoi ruya l'bia. But we paskin yesh chuppah lepsulais. Pal, yesh chuppah lepsulais just means that since chuppah is the beginning, is approaching bia, it disqualifies her from truma, but it's not a kinyan. In other words, the way we learned the Gemara, so that would answer the Ran's question. Because we're not saying chuppah lepsulais is a kinyan, we're just saying it disqualifies her from truma. But if you learn Rashi, the way Tosfos learns Rashi, that we're talking about chuppah after Kedushin, and we're talking about an effective chuppah, and Rav says, yesh chuppah lepsulais, you could still really answer the Ran's question that, now then it's not so simple, because it seems like the chuppah is koina. In other words, even according the way Tosfos learns, that the the way Tosfos learns that we're talking about, the way Tosfos learns Rashi, that we're talking in the world of Rav Huna, that chuppah is koina. By the way, what is the Rambam Paskin regarding Rav Huna? The Rambam Paskin's not like Rav Huna. The Rambam Paskin's chuppah is not koina. So, if the Rambam could learn the Gemara like the Ritva and everything's hunky-dory and the Ran doesn't have a kasha. Basically, that's the Lechem Mishnah's answer. The way we applied, let's see if I can find the Lechem Mishnah. I can't find the Lechem Mishnah. But I think it's pretty clear that the Rambam Paskins chuppah nida is not koina, and the Rambam Paskins not like Rav Huna that chuppah is not koina stam. So how would the Rambam learn this Gemara? The way we learned the Ritva, the way the Ritva learns Rashi, that we're talking about passeling her from truma, despite the fact that you're not koina. Yeah, that's all. That's all, folks. Okay. Okay, have a good day, everyone. Be matzliach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.